Hey folks, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. Hang out this nerd.
Nerdarchy 10.
Today we're going to do a video response to an article, 10 things you need to respect about D&D etiquette.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
The other thing you're going to find in the description is a link to the blog post we're going to talk about the 10 things you need to respect about D&D etiquette over on JimmiWazEre on his website. And we found this online, and we figured, hey, we're gonna talk about it. It's an interesting topic. Some of you guys might want to weigh in on, and you might find it helpful. So we're gonna just paraphrase what Jimmy had to say for each topic. So if you want to read it in full, just go click that link and check it out. So we have a backstory is number 1. Number 2 is D&D is not a competition. Number 3, do your prep work. Number 4, don't try to beat the DM. Number 5, be ready for your turn in combat. Number 6, don't metagame. 7, don't be bossy. 8, check your rules luring. Number 9, remember your basic manners in case your mama didn't teach you. He didn't put that part, I did. And number 10, for the love of God, pay attention.
So number 1, have a backstory. There's been loads of talk about this. We've done videos, other people have done video responses. We've done video responses to other stuff. But it boils down to, with a backstory, you're going to know who you are, who you're playing, and what your character voice is going to be. Not necessarily like, oh, I'm going to talk lower, or I'm going to talk higher, I'm going to talk faster, but like who you are, what your position is on things, so that when you engage in a conversation, you know what your character is going to say. If you just show up with, I'm playing a generic fighter, I'm not fun and interesting in any way, shape, or form, no one's going to want to role play as that or with that.
Now, like Ted said, we've done a lot with backstories, and the kind of paraphrase what Jimmy had to say was basically have it, share it with your GM. It's going to help him, come up with plots and hooks for your character. And I've seen different, methodologies for this. Some people will just come up with the bare minimum. Other people won't do anything because they like to actually build their backstory during the game. So I will say, like, you don't necessarily have to have a fully fleshed out character when you start. You can have a couple ideas, or you can kind of invent it as you go. But if you do go that route, just understand more than likely, like, your GM isn't going to be able to tailor things to your character because he doesn't know where the character came from or what the backstory is. So that's going to be a consideration.
So have goals, share it with your GM so that those goals might become a possibility in your game.
Or the other idea is you could actually, let your GM have some fiat with your backstory if you don't care and you're kind of okay with rolling with whatever. So number 2, D&D is not a competition, and the kind of paraphrase what we got here is, Jimmy says, don't be a min-maxer or power gamer. Tell a cooperative story with other players is kind of the gist of what he's going for. Now, I will kind of say I disagree with this a little bit, because if that's your agreement with your group and your group doesn't care about story as much and they're into other aspects of the game, then that's fine. Like, that's a group decision. Some players are power gamers. Some groups are power gamers and min-maxers. And if that's your fun, I'm not going to tell you it's wrong. You can absolutely play the game that way. But there are some reasons why you might want to try playing the game some other ways.
There's also nothing to say about being a min-maxer and being a good role player. You can have a character who's got a 20 in their prime stat and be an excellent role player at your table and a positive asset to your gaming group. So one does not necessarily, cancel out the other. The idea is you're not trying to treat this game as a competition with the other players. Respect the loot that's there so that everybody gets a proper share, and don't realize that or don't make it that it's a competition between you and the other players or the players and the GM. Everybody is supposed to be having fun here, so have fun.
Yeah, one of our friends, one of my favorite people, is Nelson from Infinite Roleplay, who calls himself the immersive power gamer. So yes, you can do both. Number 3 is do your prep work. What does this mean? Come to the table with your character already leveled up, have your equipment ready to go. Have your spells picked. Be ready, be ready to play the game if you're the player. The GM isn't the only one with homework to do.
Sometimes, GM might come up with, questions of, what are you guys looking to do next session? Or, give me a couple NPCs from your backstory, or give me a couple NPCs that I can throw in here. If DM gives you homework, make sure that homework is done so that everybody can be able to run in there and enjoy the game.
Well, we've definitely had players that would like not bring their characters to the table, that would lose them constantly.
We had for a long time where I stored the characters or the player's character sheet on my computer because it got forgotten so many times that I was like, look, if I just print it here, you'll have it.
Yeah, we've definitely had players that are notorious for this. The last minute leveling. Thankfully, at least in 5e, if you're proficient with the system, leveling up is really fast. So if you do forget, you can do it kind of quick. But yeah, everyone is setting aside time for the game. So you want to try and be ready when it's time to play, so people aren't waiting for you to finish, getting your character together. We've got number 4, and this kind of is similar to number 2, and that is don't try to beat the DM. Don't intentionally derail the game.
So this is one of those things that it's a sore point for many DMs where, like, all right, there's a fine line between railroad, sandbox, and I want to do what the DM is absolutely going to despise. You can easily cross from one category into the next if you're not too careful. Railroad. So you got a straight story. DM provides plot. Everybody jumps on it and goes. Sandbox, far more open style game. Players, what do you want to do? Okay, great. Let's go do this. Going against the DM is like, okay, well, DM's provided the story. I'm interested in doing it, but before we get into that, I'm gonna completely take this in another direction that nobody saw coming. It could mess up what other players have on their agendas. It could mess up, the main storyline. It just throws a monkey wrench into the works.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times this player is really just trying to hog the spotlight. They're kind of being contrarian to everything that is at the table. I've also heard it referred to as just having player buy-in, right? It's an agreement between the players at the table and the GM that we're going to all come together and kind of play the same game. I see this person that is the person that is trying to beat the DM or derail the game as, they've made a mini game of it, right? Can they just be a pain in the ass? And that's what they kind of delight in and have fun with. And unfortunately, when you end up with that, there's very little you can do about it except for ask them not to come back. And if you are this player, right, and you're being kind of disruptive, that is definitely a consequence. Is you may end up with not having a group to play with.
Absolutely.
So number 5, be ready for your turn in combat. Don't dawdle. Figure out your actions on the turns before yours. New players get a pass on this one.
So I've always found, especially in 5th edition, everyone should have what is their default. What is it that if push comes to shove, you got nothing that you can do, this is what I do. It could be, I make a basic attack. I cast a cantrip. I help out, insert fellow player. Just taking the aid in action, doing the aid another action in combat is going to give someone advantage. That in and of itself could be your standby and is incredibly helpful because they're going to make their attacks with advantage. But having that basic thing of when you're not sure, this is what I do for every single character that you're going to play is going to speed up combat so much more than you realize because it never gets to that, I don't know what to do. If you're unsure of what spell you want to cast, go to that default. Don't wait till your turn to be like, let me look up and see what spell I could use in this situation. Or I'm going to cast this spell, but what did it do again? Let me look that up. Every time these things happen, combat gets slowed down by 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. And if every single player did this on every single one of their turns, combat actually, you spend more time waiting than actually doing something in combat.
Yeah, when I play a spellcaster, I try to be reading the spells I might want to use when it's someone else's turn. Trying to figure it out. If you go, the only time it can be a little bit tricky is if you go first, and then you might want to have a default action to do, or you have to make a decision real fast. But if you're later in the round, why everybody's doing their thing, you should kind of have an idea of what you want to do. Now, sometimes, that's going to change because the scenario has changed and now you need to change your tactics. That might be going to a default, like you said, or on the fly, you might have to quickly choose another action. But, be thinking ahead and think of several actions that you can do, almost like a chess game, right? You want to think, several moves ahead of time. So you want to think about what you're going to do. Maybe you want to think about 2 or 3 things you could do. And then when it is actually your turn, you pick the one that is going to suit the situation the best.
Now, this is going to be a little bit contrary to rule number 10, as Dave said, with pay attention, because it's hard to be aware of what's going on in combat as players are taking their turn and you looking through the rule book to double check or read up on a spell, but it's doable. We've both done it and stayed, in line with what's going on.
I'm terrible at number 10, to be honest with you. I'm easily distracted. But yeah, but that being said, if you're actually looking to see what you're going to do in your turn, I don't think that actually counts. Number 6 is don't metagame, separate player and character knowledge. And this can be hard to do, especially if you've been playing the game for a long time and you pretty much know every monster the GM's going to put out backwards and forwards. You know what the spell effects are. You know how everything works in the game. So you know how I fix this? I do metagame. And this is how I do it. If it is something that is my character wouldn't know about, then I act and do things usually that are a detriment to my character and the party, because I just think it's funny.
So it's like, okay, that monster is resistant to fire. I know it. DM knows it. But my character doesn't know it. Fine, I'm fireballing him. And you know what? I damaged the party in the process.
I was going through a tunnel. I was going through a cave in a game run by Jim Davis from WebDM, and it was cold. It got colder and colder, and there's this brown stuff all over the walls. Now I knew what it was. I knew that it was brown mold, and I know what happens when you expose it to fire. So I'm like, oh no, my character's cold. What's he do? I know. He'll light a torch because fire will make him warm. Well, it makes that stuff grow even worse, and it makes the damage effects even worse. And I went first, so then after I went through, I threw the torch behind me back into the chamber where the stuff was. Then my party was coming through next. But hey, Jogo didn't know.
So, this is the way that metagaming winds up becoming more fun, and you can make sure that you're never accused of, oh, well, you did this because you know that such and such. So you can metagame, just metagame the wrong way.
Right, or the right way. It depends on how you look at it. But either way, metagame to have more fun and create more interesting stories. And to me, it's far more interesting and fun when you create challenges for yourself and for the other characters in the game. That's what this game is about. Those high tension and drama moments.
Absolutely.
So number 7 is don't be bossy. Helping other players is good. Telling them how to play their characters is bad. I agree. I freaking hate when other people are telling people how to play their characters. And just because they feel like they're not playing them right, they're not optimizing, they're not doing the best moves. It's their character. They can play them however they want.
I try to be helpful, and I want to make sure I walk that line carefully. That I give them suggestions if they're new players. If they're not a newbie, if they're not just learning what's going on, I'm hands off. Do what you want unless you're asking for help. I got more than enough to handle with my character. I don't need to play yours too.
Yeah, because in this case, I would be getting bossed around a lot because I like to do a lot of crazy stuff in the games at times that may or may not get my character or the party killed. But, I think it's more fun and interesting that way when there's more action in the game. And, I like cinematic moments, and you can't really have great cinematic moments if there's no risk.
That's true.
So, number 8 is check your rules luring. Don't argue with the DM during the game over rules calls let the DM basically.
So this is one that I think that there's a large amount of people out there struggle with this. Third edition, I think, really, since they made rules for everything, really bred that which we know of the rules lawyer. I've been there. I try very hard not to go down that road. When I play, and sometimes it's like, oh, I'm just gonna stick a sock in my mouth and just shut the frick up.
But also, too, you never know when the GM's intentionally changing the rules because there's information that you don't have as a player, your character wouldn't have. Ultimately, I kind of agree with Jimmy here is just let the GM do his thing. If you do have an issue with a rule calling during the game instead of slowing up game and causing confrontation, just wait until afterwards and talk about it. The only time we at our table will really worry about looking up rules is if it's a clutch moment that's going to have a lasting effect in the game. But for the most part, we just let it ride. We'll figure it out afterwards, and we can change how it's done before. There's a bunch of thick books for this game, and I've played 5 editions of the game. So eventually, I'm bound to screw something up. Think of an older edition, whatever, and then afterwards, I will just apologize to the player, like, oh, you know what, you were right. I did this wrong, or I was thinking of this other ability, and we just move forward from there.
In the end, you can go to the DMG, and one of these days I'm going to find that page and memorize what it was. But it says that as the GM, change what you want, make it however you want to play it, because ultimately this is your game. So when the GM says, "This is my ruling," it doesn't matter what any other book page says. It doesn't matter anywhere else. The GM has the final say, and in the end, that's what matters. This is his game. Or her game.
Well, it's everybody's game, but in the moment, it's their game to arbitrate over in the moment. So
right, well, the point I'm getting at. The GM has the final call. The DM can say, "This is the way it's going to be," and the rest of the rules don't make a difference.
So number 10 is, for the love of God, pay attention. Don't distract other players at the table, essentially is what this means. And also, by paying attention, you'll know what's going on when it's your turn.
So this applies both in and out of combat. We shouldn't be pulling out our phones or tablets and playing app games or what have you. Be aware of what's going on. You never know when a crux moment somebody reveals information that is actually important to your character. That's like, okay, well, I've been waiting for this since the beginning. Didn't realize it was going to come here. And if you weren't paying attention, you might have missed it. And that was your opportunity to like, okay, I'm going to put this plan into motion, or I'm going to go talk to that NPC. There's lots of things that can happen that will greatly change the game for you. But if you're not paying attention, you won't see it.
Yeah, Jimmy calls out specifically like building dice towers that can fall over and make a lot of noise, distracting everybody. If you need to fidget or do something, he recommends maybe getting a fidget spinner or fidget cube and playing with it under the table where it's not distracting to the other players. I'm terrible for this. I get distracted easily. I like to sort my dice while we're playing, but I try and pay attention at the same time. And there are certain instances where, like, if my character's not involved, I might not pay attention because he's not really there to know what's going on. But for the most part, you want to not detract from what's going on at the table from the other players, and you want to respect the story that you're playing together as a group.
So all in all, JimmiWazEre, pretty cool article. I like and agree with all of your rules. What do you guys out there think? What do you gals out there think? Is there any rules that we missed? Anything we got wrong? There's a great place to continue that conversation down in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out over at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.